All right, welcome to another episode of Can You Connect? And this is Mr.WalkThatWalk. And today's episode, we are going to be going over classism. So, last episode we went over religion. So, we're going to go over how classism, let's say, affects, dating, being coupled up, and your interactions. And we're going to start off with, let's say, maybe a man who is wealthy or well off, getting over some of their thoughts. So, once this particular person became a bit well off, they kind of wanted anything and everything. So, any woman that came across he thought was gorgeous or beautiful, he was going after them. He was with multiple women, got caught up with drugs and just doing a bunch of things because this was an unfound thing. Like it's like a one in a lifetime thing if you end up becoming somebody who is wealthy. Yes, you can also work hard, but sometimes there's also networking and luck that goes into it as well. So another man mentioned that if a woman helped him build his wealth, he feels more comfortable being with her. There's less to question because some men who built that type of wealth, oftentimes maybe they're questioning why this person is here, or they're questioning the person's intentions for being with them. So those are certain things to keep in mind. There's another man who also mentioned that some guys who are wealthy, maybe they're not going to date certain women who work regular jobs, like maybe 9-to-5 jobs. So maybe some wealthy men are not going to do that. They're going to talk to maybe other wealthy families and date their daughters because of that network and the community they have who they could reach and talk to. And speaking of that, because of who they know, who they talk to, they're only going to go to certain places because they already know those people. They already had those networks. They're not really going to go out their way to go to those maybe other places that other people go to unless maybe they really like it, like those certain events. And one mentioned that he doesn't really chase women. He just allows the situation to naturally happen because he's not trying to scare the woman away by being, let's say, overbearing or over aggressive. And they also mentioned that they're going to invest in their women and help them get to wherever they're trying to be in life, maybe a business, maybe they're trying to get a certain job, so they're going to figure out a way to benefit them as well and put them in certain positions so that they can go up in ladder as well with them. If, let's say, maybe they're not wealthy as well. However, they do want somebody who's going to, one person mentioned that he does want somebody who's going to communicate well. So dealing with, let's say, being good in a crisis and not reactive or responsive. Somebody who's emotionally intelligent. Somebody who's not disrespectful. Somebody who's not going to ghost him and talk about the issue at hand and just work through it. Some of them mentioned that they do date younger women, so they're not dating maybe women their age. But let's say if the person was 20 something, then they become wealthy in their 20s, and they probably would date people their age. And they mentioned wanting to date somebody who hasn't seen the whole world. So they want to expose a person to different things and show them different things. So they think those things will be good and fun and something different. Because they don't want somebody who's seen it all and did it all. Or who's been with all the wealthy people. Because sometimes all the wealthy people date the same women, or all the women kind of look alike. So this particular person says he doesn't want to do that at all. But some do that. Why? Because maybe they're in all the same spaces and they feel comfortable all dating the same women. But this other person mentioned wanting a woman who's down to earth and also has structure and not too chaotic or all over the place. For women who are wealthy, she discusses wanting somebody who is financially where she is due to dating somebody who had less money than her and had issues with her investing her money into real estate because she's trying to continue building, but he didn't really understand the point of doing that. He wanted to, let's say, maybe hold on to the money rather than allowing the money to continue working for you. So that's it for the people who are wealthy and rich. And now we'll go over to people who work a 9-to-5 job. This is from a man who goes over, we should be working as a team, and not one person over the other, and not overspending and just spending what we need. So that was from a man's perspective. That's somebody who he kind of wants to date and deal with. And women who is working a 9-to-5, some of them are maybe having certain issues, especially if it's not like a career or anything. They're having issues with taking care of themselves because maybe they're overworking and they're trying to get to a certain position, so they're neglecting themselves. And when you're neglecting yourself and not taking care of yourself, it builds like a resentment. You don't really, now you're kind of frustrated, and there's frustration with the job because maybe you don't like the job. And now if you don't like the job, now you're carrying around this mood that you're taking everywhere. So now you got a negative mood, and that kind of affects your dating life because now, you're not happy and you're not doing the things that make you happy. And that's going to be causing conflict with the person they are dating, or it's going to prevent them from meeting people because of how they're coming off. So those are certain things to keep in mind as well. Another thing would be, the next people are going to be the people who are entrepreneurs. So these are people who have their own businesses or just getting started. And from a man's perspective, they are thinking about their business, let's say 24/7. So these are the people, because you really have to work on it on a consistent basis so it's not falling or faltering. And since it's that way, they're usually super busy, and they want that. It's almost like a drug because it's kind of like their business is addicting in a sense because they're thinking about it all the time. Even though they're able to make their own schedule, it's still a lot going on. And since they have a lot going on, they need somebody who is going to be patient with them. They need somebody who's going to have the same vision as them, who's going to be understanding. But this particular person, this guy didn't really want somebody to struggle with him while he's building his business up. But if he found the right person that's willing to work with him, then he's willing to really take it far with that person. And needing that person to be, let's say, on your program, so they're following your lead, they're being supportive, and invested into your business. So these were some of the men, and now we're going to go to some of the entrepreneur women. And they mentioned wanting a man who's also supportive, so it's almost like they're a bit likewise, wanting the same thing. They want to talk with guys who have a business as well, because it's some type of commonality. There's something in common we have together, and we're understanding of each other's schedules because we're both probably a bit busy. And due to that, because they don't want somebody who's maybe threatened by what they have, because they do have the business. A lady mentioned that there was issues with guys she was dating who didn't have a business and didn't have their own thing going on. So going forward, she wants a guy who has something going on. And we're going to go over a couple. They had to kind of go out their way to make time for each other. Sometimes a partner, when you have a business, his wife had a business, and sometimes she likes taking risks for the business. So, because maybe it could help it grow or go up. And sometimes the husband was like, some risks he was maybe on board with, and some was like, we don't want to have nothing. Like, I get taking a risk, but we should have something saved up. So those are interesting back and forth that they had. But the husband mentioned that he was his, he's his wife's cheerleader, so he supports her. And the wife also brings her husband onto her business, so she wants to make sure that he gets paid as well, because he's been, helping her and improving her business. So he's not just there supporting, he's also involved. And the wife also mentioned that sometimes she got certain struggles because she's not rested. Because when you have this creativity and ideas, sometimes your creativity, your ideas, they keep you up at night. So sometimes she mentioned not sleeping as much because she's thinking about the next thing or the next idea and how to build upon it. Building upon your business. Another woman went over how it's challenging, dating as an entrepreneur, working all day and then trying to meet somebody. So she said she wanted her business to be so good that she could just take off, let's say, a weekend. And once she got to that point, then it was like, okay, now I could put myself out there to meet people and really date, because it's hard to do that if you're sun up, sun down. It's all about the business. That's going to be hard. And another woman mentioned it was harder dating somebody who didn't have. Now, the other guy is I will say this: the couple we just talking about, the guy works a regular 9-to-5 job, but they're married and they worked through it. It was a black couple. They worked through it and they're good. But the other couple, there's another couple that she mentioned that they had a issue because she was like, they're just waiting for her, and she didn't want them just waiting for her to get finished with working, because sometimes she's going overtime. So those were issues. But she mentioned that once she got married, she actually shifted her schedule so that she can date, so that she can marry. She got to the point like, nah, I need to change this and make it a bit different. So those are pretty interesting as well. I feel like the entrepreneurs is like some of the middle class people, and even some of the 9-to-5 people are middle class people as well. But next we're going to go on to a lower class who maybe does not have as much, and how dating goes for them, or if they're even choosing to date at all. So we're going to go over how some of the men are, let's say, inviting women who maybe they seem as attractive to them, who don't have much, to their homes. They're like, oh, you don't have a home? Well, you can come stay with me. Now, I don't know how safe that is, but, sometimes I feel like I could be hit or miss. But due to that, maybe some women will say no, or some women will say wait to tell the guy that they don't have a home, through the dates. And a lady mentioned that at the homeless shelter, she was dating somebody and she felt comfortable talking to them, but that was only because she knew him before through school. So since she already knew him, she probably wasn't maybe going to be open to talking to anybody she didn't know at all. But since she knew him, they talked, but she didn't want to continue with him because maybe he's not being productive, because she has a job, a phone, a car, and he didn't have those things, and maybe he wasn't working towards getting those things. So it kind of made her kind of pull back from him in that situation. And there was another lady that went over, not wanting anything. She would get temporary pleasure, but it would be having her emotionally tied to these people and maybe feeling like these people control her because she doesn't have much. So she wanted to stop doing that so she could work on building herself up. So maybe she feels confident in speaking up for herself. And for the men, some of the men, from what we hear, especially on social media, that some of the men, they do what they could do physically in a sexual way to make sure they have a home. So sometimes they go out their way to do that. So those are just some of the interesting ways. Now, do people date outside their class? Yes. I've heard some things where people date within their family to keep their wealth. So those are pretty interesting things. Sometimes I feel like it's more rare for people to date outside their class than in their class because they want somebody who's going to relate to their lifestyle. So that's why sometimes it could be challenging. But if the person's open and they work with you, then y'all can figure it out and maybe make something work. So that will definitely be it for this episode. Definitely thanks for watching, and definitely support a YouTuber, I Show Speed. He traveled all over Africa, showed us everything, which was pretty awesome. It was a cool experience, and it made people want to travel more to Africa and, gain more respect for the place. So all over the continent of Africa. So definitely check out his stuff. And definitely support my artist and the person who does my intro and outro music. And myself, I'm a clinical social worker for the state of Maryland. So, definitely check out my stuff. And I could do individual, couples, and family therapy. So that will be it. And y'all definitely have a good rest of the night and a good rest of the week.
What can we do to teach a lesson?